Greetings adventurers, and welcome to the Loot Goblin Marketplace. Hey kid, want to try some gamer subs? You can now get free samples anywhere in the world and try the most delicious 0-calorie energy powder in the game when you use code LootGoblin. Each sample sent out gets me one step closer to my quest to get a flavor that tastes suspiciously like Dr. Pepper. If you end up liking those free samples and want to purchase some gamer subs, make sure to use the link in the description or use my code to get 10% off your entire order. If there's one thing that I've slowly realized playing tabletop and video games over the last decade or so, it is that people get really mad when you have a specific romance option in mind and the game doesn't allow it. Today's two stories cover situations where the Dungeon Master decides to force a romance plot between their favorite non-player character and some unfortunate party member. If you want to play a power fantasy where you control the story, get to play a totally overpowered character, and have the rest of the party fighting over each other to get with you, may I suggest maybe playing Baldur's Gate 3. The entire party will be begging to get with you by the end of Act 1, and if you strike out with your favorite party member, you can just reload your save without traumatizing your fellow players. The first one is called How My Character Got Railroaded into Marrying Two Different Dungeon Master Player Characters. So this story happened almost 10 years ago and involves my friend group from high school. I was the only girl in the group, and at the time I openly identified as a lesbian. Years later, I realized I was bi and that I just found teenage boys repulsive. Our school had a D&D club that was DM'd and moderated by the teacher's aide, but they only did D&D, and our group wanted to branch more into other tabletop role-playing games. Our group had 5 people, including me, Jack, Sam, Todd, and Tom, but the people I'm going to be focusing on are Jack and Todd. We decided to alternate weekend games, with Jack running an Airship Pirates game, since he was super into steampunk, and Todd doing some homebrew D&D meets Final Fantasy in space. I wasn't originally in Todd's game. In the Airships Pirates campaign, Todd played some Swordmaster type. Sam and Todd played support automatons that had a kind of Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street dynamic, and I was a lower class Neo-Victorian rogue. My backstory was that I had been in a romantic relationship with the guildmaster of the Thieves Guild I was a part of, and that we had a sort of Bonnie and Clyde dynamic, before he betrayed me and left me for dead. My character survived and was determined to get revenge on the guildmaster using whatever means necessary. She was a sort of seduce and stab femme fatale, and I made it clear that she was not interested in romance or love given her backstory. Well, Jack felt left out of the fun of being a player, I guess, because he made a DMPC who was the captain of the airship we were taking passage on, starting 2 levels higher at level 5 compared to us level 3s. Jack's captain quickly took a liking to my rogue and started to seduce her. I said that she wouldn't really be interested in a romantic relationship, but Jack rolled seduce and I had no way out of that. I didn't really have a way to say no, so I said alright, fine, she sleeps with him. It's just sex, whatever. Problem was, Jack then began to get upset when my rogue would go out and try to seduce other non-player characters to get information or carry out her hits. For example, I rolled to seduce the guard to distract him while my party sneaks in. Well, the guard turns out to be a very human-looking automaton with no genitals. I try to charm information out of a contact I had a past fling with. Said contact is suddenly very cold to me and practically chases me out while very reluctantly giving me information. Meanwhile, Jack's captain is getting more and more possessive and controlling of my rogue, to the point where he doesn't allow me to go anywhere without him, and even makes my character room with him, with unavoidable nightly seduction rolls that always go his way. Things eventually come to a head when we're able to confront the guildmaster, my rogue's ex-lover who cut her throat and left her to die. Jack had told me that I would get the opportunity to exact some delicious revenge if I played my cards right, so I was very excited. Our party is captured by the guildmaster and held captive on his airship. We managed to break out thanks to my rogue's double-jointedness and the sacrifice of Tom's automaton, who is replaced by a sewer gremlin unfortunate that decides to tag along and help the party. We fight our way through mooks until we get to the guildmaster, and a boss battle goes down. It's a hard fight, and my rogue almost goes down, but we pull it off. Sam and Todd tie down the guildmaster and nod to me, giving me a moment of spotlight and closure to do what I saw fit with my betrayer. So far, a great setup by the party. I had it all planned out in my head. My rogue was going to give a tearful goodbye to the only man she had ever loved, whom she still held tragic feelings for, and then swiftly cut his throat. Except before I even got a chance to talk, Jack's captain practically shoved her out of the way, and started a long monologue as though he was the one who has an extremely personal grudge against the guildmaster, before describing in shrill glee how he beat and castrated the guildmaster before stripping him naked, cutting him open guts to throat, and making it as long and painful as possible. This took everyone by surprise. We had no idea what to say. I'm not one to play a spotlight hog, but everyone in the campaign had gotten a little arc centered on them where they were able to destroy some evil person that had wronged them. Tom and Sam got to exact vengeance upon their corrupt creator. Todd got to kill the genocidal general that had destroyed his village, etc. So we were all shocked at the moment that the last 3 to 4 sessions had been building up to suddenly got that sort of ending. After that, I kind of lost interest in the game. My rogue, shocked and traumatized at the extremely violent nature of the execution, became deeply depressed and withdrawn, still doing her part when stealth checks were needed, but otherwise was desolate and constantly drunk. The others had also lost interest in role-playing and the campaign fizzled out. Jack gave us an epilogue about how he flew off into the sunset, and the rogue got married to the captain and lived happily ever after. Real storybook ending. This, however, was only one of my unfortunate marriages. That was an awful sequence of events. I am shocked though that the party's surprised that it ended up going that route. I get it was probably a little more gory than expected, but this guy right out the gate seems obsessed with the player and their character. They make a DMPC that's not subtle at all with how jealous they are when this character interacts with other male characters. So when she explains that this person is the person that she wanted vengeance on for so long, it's like her only true love, you just know the DMPC is going to ruin that moment, because of course in his head the ship captain is her one true love. He's rescuing her. So of course this DMPC is going to hog the spotlight, because according to the seduction role, I guess that's his girl, because that's how it works, right? I don't know about the rest of the table if they talked in a session 0 about if they want to pursue romance or not, but this player specifically made it clear that their whole arc is kind of centered around the fact that they're not going to pursue romance because the last time they did, it went very badly. So there's really no excuse for the Dungeon Master and DMPC to do this here. This is a situation where you're allowed to kind of make the game come to a grinding halt, be annoying, and say, no, you know what, that role isn't happening, we're not going to move past this, you're going to have to retcon what you just did, or this is the end of the session for me. The fact that this is only unfortunate marriage 1 of 2 makes me dread what's going to happen next, but let's get into it. Todd's campaign, which began about halfway through Jack's, was less well put together because it was an extremely homebrewed setting. The whole thing was incredibly disorganized, and I don't really remember the plot because of how disorganized it was, and because I joined halfway in. In fact, Todd approached me after the Guildmaster's death in Jack's campaign, and that I was being controlled by Jack's DMPC. He told me that such a thing would never happen in his campaign, and offered me a chance to join his campaign, saying he'd make it fit, and that he'd even let me play my rogue. I should have taken that as my first red flag. Yeah, that is kind of weird. See, over the course of my rogue being forcefully wooed in Airship Pirates by Jack's DMPC, Todd's character had also taken a liking to my rogue, but his wooing was drowned out by how possessive Jack was. I was more absorbed in my player agency being taken away than the dick measuring contest that's happening between Todd and Jack to play favorites, since I didn't want a romance from the start at all. But I thought that since Jack wasn't in Todd's campaign and it was all different characters, it would be okay. I decided to not reuse my rogue, thank goodness. Instead, I rolled up a level 5 space cleric since I wanted to explore support. Our party was me the cleric, Sam a space orc barbarian, Tom a goblin tinkerer thief thing, it was a homebrewed class, and then Todd, who was playing some paladin of light and the chosen of the universe, who was also the captain of the spaceship we were on. I made the mistake of assuming Todd's DMPC was a quest giver and form of transportation, since we were hopping around to all these different planets and trade hubs for different quests. Instead, Todd's captain was more or less a full player character and party leader. He wasn't just a space chauffeur. He actually came with us on missions and interacted with NPCs, which meant that we, the player characters, more or less sat around while Todd roleplayed with himself. Additionally, since Todd owned the spaceship, Todd decided what planets we got to go to and what quests we got to take. It was annoying, but since Todd's paladin was at least the same level as ours, and he was more amenable to our desires, we let it slide. The problems began to arise when my cleric got drunk on alien wine at a port and said how she thought the captain looked handsome. She was complimenting everyone, Sam's orc, Tom's includes Goblin, the barkeep, the band, her mug. She was out of it and was only meant to be some goofy roleplay since we were having a fun time. I noticed Todd getting a weird look, and he rolls to seduce my cleric. I fail my saving throw at a disadvantage because I'm drunk, and Todd's paladin sweeps her off her feet and takes her upstairs. I don't want to ruin the mood yet again, so I don't make a big deal out of it, and the session ends there. I try not to bring it up to anyone all week in the hopes that it will be forgotten and we can resume space adventuring. At the start of the next session, Todd immediately tells me to roll a d20, won't tell me what for. I do and get an 18. Todd then proudly announces that because of my cleric and his paladin doing the deed, I was now pregnant and the paladin proposed to me. I'm really weirded out now and I decline, citing that I want to get an abortion. Apparently, space abortion doesn't exist as a concept, so I can't. In fact, the paladin's deity is so interested in his sex life that they are divinely protecting the embryo, so even intentionally miscarrying would be impossible. I'm starting to get irritated because of this bullshit, so I say no, and Todd launches into an hour-long argument with me trying to get me to marry his paladin. Sam and Tom get irritated by this point too, because we just want to get to the main mission. Finally, Todd rolls charisma and says my cleric accepts his proposal, and the paladin deity marries us personally. Right then and there, no, I didn't even get a chance to roll against. This would be more than enough on its own, except Todd says that because of the baby inside of me, I now get disadvantage on all my rolls, despite the damn thing only being conceived yesterday. Okay, yeah, hold on, so this is a divinely blessed baby, but for some reason the mother's at a disadvantage? I wish I could say that I left then and there, but because we were all friends, I stuck around, dealing with Todd's White Knight Paladin shielding me from all harm and trying to roleplay happy little family with me, while Sam and Todd gradually got irritated with the lack of killing things and began blaming me for hogging the spotlight and being useless due to the disadvantage. The campaign finally fizzled out when Todd and I had to focus on graduating and got thrown for another loop when Todd then asked me out, despite me openly identifying as a lesbian. Apparently we had such good chemistry and that he could really feel we were meant to be. Almost like it's divine. Did your divine deity tell you that, Todd? This is real life now, not the game. I finally grew a brainstem and stopped talking to Todd after that, and our friend group drifted apart after graduation. I didn't touch tabletop role-playing games for almost a decade after that, out of fear of more Todds and Jacks. Unfortunately, I don't really blame you there. Having that situation happen back to back, especially since Todd promised that this time it would be way better, is really frustrating. I don't know what it is about seduction roles that people feel like it's almost magical in nature, but they're not. You're gonna have to actually use a spell slot, and I feel like most people would not let you use it for that intended purpose. If your character cannot explain to their character why something should happen, I'm not gonna let a roll that's like charisma versus charisma determine the outcome. If you're deceiving, intimidating, or persuading the character, do it through role play, not through rolling your dice. If you think it sounds kind of ridiculous that they're rolling opposing seduction rolls, it's because it actually is. The fact that this was allowed in both campaigns is frustrating, and unfortunately because the author here didn't shut down the situation quickly in the second campaign, the other two players eventually turn on her and say that she's hogging the spotlight, which is just even more infuriating. I wish they had pushed back more and taken her side. It's very clear that by the end of this campaign, everyone was pissed off, and that's probably a sign that you ran a poor campaign. All I can say is that I hope your next campaign is going much better, and unfortunately this is not a unique situation, as I have a second story here that goes by the name The Dungeon Master Forces Romance between a DMPC and my character. This is my first D&D 5th edition game with strangers. For years I've been playing with close friends, but schedules and busy lives sadly stopped our weekly games. The Dungeon Master of the games mentions to me that they know another Dungeon Master who is looking for players. I say I'm interested, he hooks us up, and I join the game. The Dungeon Master of this game is a female. I'm a straight male and so is my cleric character. The only other players is a min-maxer straight female playing a female hexblade paladin with a polearm sentinel. That right there is a min-maxer, alright. The genders will be important later. So the Dungeon Master told us that since the party is so small, she'll be adding an NPC who will help us out here and there. That NPC turned out to be a male DMPC rogue who is always 2 levels above us plus magic items. Why are they always 2 levels higher than the party? I see this all the time. Is it because 3 would be too much? I guess so. They don't just help here and there. No, they straight up take the spotlight, often being the one dealing the final blow against bosses. But more more on that later. I need to mention that nearly all the NPCs are male, some of which have romantic relationships with each other. Literally, the only female NPCs are the villains, usually the seductress or the femme fatale types. So we got around 2 sessions in, and immediately I don't like the DMPC. The Dungeon Master always inserts the DMPC in every scene with my character. I notice that it's difficult for my cleric to bond with the min-maxer because every time I try to roleplay with the min-maxer, the DMPC butts in. The first instance where it becomes a big problem is when we're fighting one of the main villains. She was hiding behind hostages, but we ended up pummeling her and kicking her ass pretty good, mostly thanks to the min-maxer's absurd crits. We told the DMPC to go help the hostages instead while we handled the villainess. The DMPC argues against it. Sometimes it feels like the DM herself is arguing against us, telling us that it's a bad idea. After a bit of back and forth, we finally got the DMPC to leave combat and help the hostages. Finally, a combat where someone else steals the final blow. Oh wait, never mind. Yep, the moment the DMPC leaves, the villainess one-shots me. The Dungeon Master excitedly says, "Bet someone's wishing the DMPC was here right now." That ticked me off, but whatever. Min-maxer will fix this. The min-maxer goes and uses up her smites, deals an absurd amount of damage, and the villainess somehow survives and paralyzes the min-maxers. No saves, just one hit, then bam, paralyzed. With both player characters out of commission, the Dungeon Master describes how the villainess was about to finish me off as she's about to step on my head. Then a bit of silence as she played some heroic music and proceeded to describe how the DMPC just came right on time to rescue me, and how he was so angry and furious that he let me go down in his watch, blah blah blah. The villainess got scared shitless and tried to seduce him, but he says there's only one person he loves, blah blah blah. Yeah, DMPC one-shots the villainess. When both me and the min-maxer recovered, the DMPC proceeded to scold us about how we were too weak and how we are reckless. The Dungeon Master was also very obviously trying to hint that he's being harsh because he cares. Yeah, no, I don't care. I was planning to leave, but I didn't, and that's because of the min-maxer. After the DMPC leaves the scene for the first time, the Dungeon Master expected me to go after them and console them. My character and the min-maxer finally got to roleplay together meaningfully. We bonded on our near-death experience, and her character was a lot of fun and was very sweet. The Dungeon Master inserted a scene where she describes how the savior of the day ends up alone and ends the session. I spoke to the Dungeon Master about how it feels as though this rogue of hers is like a DMPC. She said, "Don't worry, the rogue will only be around for one arc." I worry, but whatever. The roleplay with min-maxer was enough for me to give this another session. I at least have something to look forward to. Come next session, the DMPC is now flirting with my character. No build up to it, just randomly decides to be flirty. He was also kinda mean to the min-maxer. Every time she speaks, he acts like she's being dumb, and the Dungeon Master just makes things happen narratively to prove that she was indeed being dumb. We got into a fight with the villainess, a character from my backstory who wasn't supposed to be evil. It was my aunt who was also my mentor. Naturally, my character would want to speak with them and try to understand what's going on and won't throw hands right away. The DMPC, on the other hand, wants to kill her. He had this whole speech about love and choosing who you love, and nothing to do with why I want to talk to my aunt. Half of it was the Dungeon Master herself explaining things and giving me meta knowledge to prove that my aunt is now pure evil at a level that puts Satan to shame. The aunt then nearly one-shots and stuns me with something that has a ridiculous save DC for our level, and the DMPC was going to slay her. Min-maxer tries to intervene as she wants to non-lethally take down my aunt for my sake, but the Dungeon Master wasn't having any of it. Even when my aunt was downed, the DMPC executed her. This, of course, enraged my character. The DMPC says that I'm ungrateful and that he saved my life. The Dungeon Master also says that out of character. The DMPC stormed off once again, expecting me to go after them, but I don't. Once again, min-maxer got space to roleplay with me. She consoled my character, and it led to a very bittersweet, wholesome moment. We both even saw potential development towards romance in the future, and she jokingly says I ship it. Oh no. That's bad. You're gonna piss off your DM. At this point, it should be obvious who the DMPC is in love with, and I think it's pretty safe to say that the DM probably has a thing for the author here as well. I'm noticing a little bit of a pattern here too. These DMPCs really love killing prominent characters in the main character's backstory. It's like no one's allowed to be associated with the character besides the possessive DMPC. No one's gonna appreciate you killing their aunt/beloved mentor just because you profess your love to them. We know the crash out's coming, so let's just get back into the story here. At that moment, the Dungeon Master just straight up tells me that my character feels an overwhelming guilt in his heart heart. I told her that's not how my character feels right now, so she gets the DMPC to come to me instead and says that he looks so heartbroken and hurt by me. F. Like I care, but apparently my character does care, as the Dungeon Master describes how my character feels tight in his chest seeing the DMPC like this. I cut her off and say, stop controlling my character, this is messed up. Poor choice of words on my part, because now she's accusing me of being homophobic, and told me I should be more open to guy-on-guy relationships, specifically guy-on-guy. She doesn't even say gay relationships. At this point, I'm done. The line between me and my character starts to blur, and I did some immature things. I angrily ask the DMPC what they want. The DMPC tries to tell me to snap out of it. I'm like, what? The DMPC proceeds to accuse my character of being seduced by the villainess, who was my aunt. Yeah, I was about to say. Both in and out of character, I just want to attack the DMPC for saying such shit. So I told the DMPC I cast Guiding Bolt on the DMPC. The Dungeon Master straight up tells me I need to roll a wisdom save to be able to attack someone I love. What the F? You know what? I'm not even going to argue, I'll roll that save and continue my attack. Being a cleric, I have good wisdom, so I pass. I hit the DMPC, who is then described to unleash a frightening aura, and approaches my character, but he gets stopped dead in his tracks by the Min-Maxer's Polar Master Sentinel combo. It was glorious how the Min-Maxer interrupts the Dungeon Master, describing the DMPC being all edgy. Hey Dungeon Master, that's how you save someone you love. You should probably take some notes for your DMPC for later. The Dungeon Master tries to argue that it's out of character for Min-Maxer, and that it would break her oath because my character is the one who attacked first. Min-Maxer argues well enough that it is in their character and won't break their oath. So the attack happens, but it misses as the Dungeon Master randomly gives the DMPC the ability to parry as a reaction, which they never had before. I point out that Min-Maxer gets to attack with advantage due to my Guiding Bolt. So Min-Maxer rolls again and rolls higher than the DMPC's armor class plus the parry. So yeah, he should have stopped, but no, the Dungeon Master says that we must roll initiative first. We try to argue that it was a reaction, but the Dungeon Master won't budge. Fine. Being a rogue, DMPC had the highest dex, and so he rolls the highest. He proceeds to approach my character. Min-Maxer tries to use their reaction, but the Dungeon Master says they can't, because initiative started with the DMPC already in Min-Maxer's reach, and thus he did not enter her reach. Bullshit. Yeah, you can say that again. So yeah, the DMPC gave their speech about love and betrayal and downs me, which allows Min-Maxer to use her Sentinel reaction as the Dungeon Master makes an attack. It misses, but she points out that Guiding Bolt is still active, which I even forgot. So she rolls again, it's a crit. The DMPC barely survives with uncanny dodge. Min-Maxer's turn. She proceeds to one-shot the DMPC. Even with his 2 levels advantage and magic items, he goes down and Min-Maxer goes for the kill. The Dungeon Master can't even lie about his HP because we know how much HP he has. As the Dungeon Master always says, it's funny how the rogue has this much more HP than the paladin. Well, duh, they're 2 levels higher. So yeah, the DMPC is just dead. The Dungeon Master leaves mid-call without saying a word. Last I heard, Dungeon Master talked to my previous DM, trying to paint me and Min-Maxer as misogynist a-holes. Well, there's always 2 sides to the story, I suppose. I mean, yeah, it's true, there's always 2 sides every story, but I feel like if the person wrote up a story about what happened here, a lot of people would see through it pretty quickly. It's honestly really hard to feel bad for the DMPC that killed the mentor character of the person they're trying to hit on, and then acts surprised when that person wants to fight them. I also feel like it's really misleading to say that they're being misogynistic. The author here made the character they looked up to their aunt, and you turn this woman who was a positive role model into a villain. Not him. I feel like if anything, he has a slightly better case calling you misogynist, because you created a world where women are only capable of evil. Honestly, I do think that's really something to think about. I actually think it's really interesting the similarity that the first story has with the second story. It's something about these authors that have DMPCs that feel like they're entitled to these romantic situations. Apparently it wasn't bad enough that these DMPCs controlled where the story went. There seems to be like this need to control the inner party play as well, and in the case of these 2 stories, it was mainly a romance plot that was forced, but I'm sure other aspects of the party dynamics are forced as well, with the DMPC just sucking all the air out of the room. I would love to hear everyone's thoughts about these stories. I do think the DMPCs were in the wrong here. I will admit that people that force seduction rolls, or don't even allow rolls, are one of my pet peeves at the table. So obviously let me know in the comments below if I'm being too harsh to these Dungeon Masters. And if you can, like and hype the videos, it really helps the channel grow. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It really means a lot that you guys are here. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.